We went the wrong way. We took a little detour. And I'm speaking British. I'm supposed to be speaking German. We took a detour. There's the trolley. I'm at the Steampunk Festival. So beautiful. Yes. Window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gigantic or an advertised locomotive. That is one of the later developing forms of transportation that comes to Lowell in the 1840s. A little asterisk there so you can keep that in mind, because a lot of changes are coming to Lowell, and changes are going to come rapidly, and those changes will necessitate new forms and ways of doing things. And this little set of arches that you can see to the right was an example of said change, as this was one of the many train stations that connected Lowell by rail to Boston and many cities throughout the United States. It is the train station that Charles Dickens himself got off at to visit Lowell in 1842. Now, one of his first sights would have been this little red gatehouse just behind us. This little red gatehouse, the Moody Street Theater gatehouse, is one of many throughout the system. As 5.6 miles of canals, believe it or not, don't have a faucet that turns on and on. All this water is coming from the same place, the Merrimack River. But where does the Merrimack River get its water from? The White Mountains. Ooh, and where do the White Mountains get their name?
The snow.
The snow. Now, is snow something that's consistent?
No.
No. And one of the great changes that are taking place during the Industrial Revolution is the consistency and reliability of regular processes. Something as simple as weaving cloth that we take for granted was once a long process that would vary between one length of time and another, depending on the design of the cloth, depending on the level of artistic design. And now all of a sudden, machines, well-oiled machines, are turning and running, making the things that were once inaccessible. We might think that something like my phone is mostly accessible, but not accessible to everyone. As a matter of fact, if you were to take a time machine back to, I don't know, 20 years ago, this was not a possibility. Now I want you to imagine a world where the clothing that you're wearing was not a possibility, where everything you would have owned would have existed and been made within 25 to 50 miles of your house. On a farm, maybe a half day's horse ride to the nearest town. In order to change that system, a lot of little pieces must change. But before we do that or talk about that, I want to let you guys know the trolley is going to now go backwards towards our final destination. If anybody's uncomfortable with that, this isn't going to be like a Disneyland roller coaster ride. But if you just sort of have a need to face forward, please let me know and I can adjust the seats accordingly. Is everybody okay traveling backwards a little bit? Okay, very good. Because we've said that the snow is unreliable, it's unpredictable, how do we then create a system that takes an inconsistent source of power and makes it consistent? Any ideas?
Dam?
You're going to need a dam. You're going to need to make sure that every last drop of your fuel is being put to good use. The river, it's just running. It doesn't need the water, right? We just bring it all into a network that is 5.6 miles of canals. And so, from there, from that river, a number of canals will spread throughout the city, which I'll pass this around so you guys can have a look. And that network of canals will deliver water that will enter a mill and drop onto a series of water wheels and turbines. But before it gets there, those canals have to be dug. Who digs those canals?
People.
People. From where?
Ireland. Immigrants.
From Ireland. That doesn't make a ton of sense, does it? I mean, we've got people here, and there's people from Ireland coming to dig the canals. Why did that happen? How did that happen? I'll give you a very important hint. I'll give you 2 hints. It's not the famine, because the famine's 1842. We're still developing in the 1820s. And it has something to do with livelihood and opportunity. Any ideas? The answer's a little easier than you might think. The simple answer is, in Ireland, there was no livelihood or opportunity for a lot of people. Now you may wonder why. Well, if you were an Irish man or woman, you would, chances are, live and work on a farm. Now, what's the most important thing you need in order to farm?
Water.
Good land.
Water, very important. But you can have water. You can own a beach house.
You need
but
good
can't
land
rent.
as
You
well.
need land, right? You need the land. Little tiny problem. If you are an Irish Catholic or not a member of the English Church, the Anglican Church, which has now taken governance of Ireland, you cannot by law own land. Now this is going to transition in the fact that they will enforce the inheritance of land. So if you once owned, well, you can't inherit the land anymore. So what does that mean for you and your children? There's nothing left for you. You will once work the land for a wage. You will work the land for a wage that your family once owned. What was once yours will be given to someone else so that you could work the way you would have worked or have had others work or have worked yourself. Reap the benefits of the land that you should have owned. And so many of them will come here to dig the canals, and so begins the expanding network that is Lowell, bringing people from one part of the world to another, becoming part of this great change, becoming all individual gears to this massive engine of change. Now, they don't come to Lowell directly because Lowell does not exist, but they will find their way up here because opportunities exist here in the emerging city of Lowell, and we will find out what those look like in just a few minutes.
What is this? Das ist awesome.
Yes.
gigantic tunnels is where water would have exited and dropped onto a turbine or two or three. And said water would then have to exit somewhere. And if you look just beyond the little areas, it's exactly where the water is exited. Now, if you look around and ignore the tin and the pipes, you might notice that this isn't exactly a natural tunnel either. And so these tunnels had to be designed, they had to be dug, they had to be engineered. And because this is a project that took place and, well, for the first time in U.S. history, really commanded a wide group of towns and towns, our towns and steel problems they're going to have to solve. The problem number one, let's say that it's after hours. It's 8 o'clock at night. Do you necessarily want turbines running all night?
No.
No. So how would you shut them off? How do you stop the water? We'll find out how to stop the water exactly, but now, in a few moments, but now you can kind of imagine there's got to be a mechanism that regulates it. There's a way to shut the water on, there's a way to shut the water off. Now, where do you think this water goes once it exits this area? It goes into another part of the same system to do what? You're on the right track. More power. More power, more manufacturing, more work. But what happens if the mills down the tunnels are not using that power and they close their gates off?
From the other.
There could be alternate routes, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But if you close one route off, let's imagine you're on a highway. And one route from here to Boston is just shut off. You shut off I-93.
Everything gets backed up.
Everything gets backed up. And the water back up here. But what happens if the water level is way above here and the turbines are now underwater? What's going to happen to the manufacturing company that was once above us? They are going to lose power. They are going to, maybe they're having a really busy day and they can't afford downtime. Now this is something as simple as the mills down the way decide they're going to take an early lunch or something. Maybe they're going to do different. But now we're starting to see that this system is interconnected. One decision impacts another. One of the major projects that needs to take place will be sort of seen just behind me right here. The holy wall. Not like holy, but holy. Not the holes in the wall. Is that great for retaining a liquid?
Nope.
Probably not. And so as the canals are built, this network of 5.6 miles of canals, it doesn't just run itself. It needs to be regularly maintained. It needs to be constantly cared for. And so as more and more people, more and more Irish immigrants come to Lowell to dig these canals, more and more will be needed to maintain them. Now this is, the project of this scale in the United States had not taken place before. And so along the way, some hiccups will come up. In one such case, how do you evenly distribute the water between one point and another? We'll talk about those complications in just a moment. Raising and lowering and adjusting the canal water levels. So to recap, we needed a small army of people to build 5.6 miles of canal, and it's going to take a number of units to maintain 25, 26 miles an hour. There's a dam that needs to be built. And there's now several gatehouses that also have to be maintained. But once the water gets into the mill, you're good for the money, right? The answer is a little more complicated than that. You might have discovered, you might already hear, the running turbine. And in this building, you'll see the system that powered thousands upon thousands of machines in just this one building. But to understand how it works, I want you guys to imagine what your source of fuel is in the system. In this case, the fuel is
Water.
the water. The water is going to drop, as we saw, onto this turbine. And the rest of the system works, believe it or not, just like your bicycle. Now on a bicycle, what's the motor?
Chain.
You, the person, and you're attached on the bicycle to a chain. Well, you're not attached to the chain unless your pants get caught. All right?
The pedals.
The pedals, right? So your motion in your leg is attached to a pedal, and that pedal turns a gear, a crank. Yep. So I want you to imagine this is you on a bicycle, and this shaft is going to go straight from the pit up, and that's your pedal, to the crank, your gears. Now these gears are turning and turning and turning. Now on your bicycle, your gears are trying to turn what? The wheel in the back, and it's connected by means of a chain. I want you to imagine this as the chain. It transfers motion from you to the wheel in the other room. But before we talk about that, let's look at some of these connections. Let's take for assumption that it's a very good day for water power. And this is running as best it can. Problem number one. Every time this gear turns and a tube goes into another one, it's creating friction. Now, everybody does this with your hands, and you keep doing it over and over again over time. You notice it gets hot. We do this in the winter to heat up. But if you know anything about metal, and you touch hot metal, it absorbs heat and retains heat well. And so, gears on gears turning non-stop all day will inevitably heat up, which isn't a problem, except that this is going to be out of wood. And those machines are nicely well lubricated, and we're going to make these hot water. Air itself is hot. And so everything is solid, and the some of you might be looking at me like I have 10 heads, because last I checked, wood is flammable, right? But what happens is, as it generates heat, as well, keep in mind this is going to be a very moist environment. And so the teeth of this bottom here are made out of wood, so that when it undergoes significant motion and pressure, they break. And if they break, they stop working, which isn't very good, but it's better than a fire, isn't it? So this system is in place to regulate and make sure that the power is in check, that it is mitigated throughout the system. But the real source of the motion that's going to power and connect the water to the machines is that wheel in the room just beyond that door. So let's head and from this flywheel, connected via a lever belt, connected to another wheel, will be belted straight up to the ceiling to a shaft that would turn not one, not two, but several hundred looms in addition to several hundred spinning blades, in addition to several hundred gear machines, all running from one of two of these flywheels in this building. Now, the leather belt that connects the flywheel to the rest of this system, by no means a lightweight belt. I used to wear it, but then I had like my It is also, side note, made out of buffalo hide, connecting us to a story out west, which I can tell you about afterwards, for those that are curious. But let's ponder here really quick. This is a bicycle, and this entire system works like a bicycle. What happens when one link in your bicycle, let's say your chain, breaks?
Well, breaks.
What?
It
all stops working. Anybody ever try to pedal a bicycle without a chain?
Yep.
Hard. You pedal real fast, but you go nowhere. Now, imagine you're going uphill and it's extremely difficult, and all of a sudden your chain just falls off. 99% of the time you probably fall over. You're like, shoot, with your balance. All the weight that was supporting you, all the friction that was supporting you, all of a sudden shuts off. Now imagine this, unlike you, with a brain that would tell you to stop pedaling at a certain point. This does not have an automatic system or a brain that we've seen to tell it to do so. And without something to shut this off, this wheel will turn with enough force to power the mill, but nowhere to transfer that force, that power. And so the wheel itself will push that power out on its own weight and literally explode from the centrifugal force pushing outwards. And so a system needs to be developed to be able to regulate that. So let me introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, to the governor this way. And when the color is loose, all the water that's falling into that pit can be absorbed. So the more water it absorbs, the faster that's turning. If it's turning too fast, we know we have a problem. That belt can wiggle on each side and it could turn too fast and break. And so this belt is attached to the wheel, causing this cylinder with a tube that metallic gear to turn it in the kitchen like I have with an oven. And you put a chicken in at 350 degrees for 4 hours and it's cooked. You don't check the oven for another hour afterwards, guess what? You burnt your chicken. You leave this unattended, you still run the risk of completing that. And so on top of maintaining the canal, on top of implementing these systems, and on top of regulating the system, you need to maintain